Hello and welcome to the lecture on Introduction to Sustainable Development Goals. In this lecture, you will learn about concepts of Sustainable Development Goals. For example, what are Sustainable Development Goals, genesis of them, relevance of land in achieving these Sustainable Development Goals will also be taught in this class. Journey of India in achieving these goals will be illustrated with schematic diagrams and few examples. Institutional framework which is linked with sustainable development goals in India will be told to you, and then we will try to summarize the learnings from this course. Let's begin. In 2012, in Rio, there was a conference in which around 193 countries participated. They chose to follow up an agenda titled Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In this agenda, the UN General Assembly recognized that for sustainable future development, a concrete plan is required which would indicate priority areas that are globally relevant. The broader objectives of this agenda were to focus on projecting and restoring various ecosystems, promote equitable development of human beings, and devise mechanisms for bridging the gap between developed and developing countries. This resulted in 17 development goals and 5 P's. These P's are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships. If you refer to the document by the UN itself, you will see that each of these sustainable development goals would have targets and indicators. For example, the very first SDG is End Poverty. It has 7 targets. One of the targets for this SDG is by 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day. That SDG has 7 indicators as well to understand the progress of these measures taken towards attaining these goals. One such indicator is proportion of population which is surviving below $1.25 per day. So what are these SDGs? As emphasized by former President John F. Kennedy, it is more crucial to clearly define specific objectives than relying on broad and generalized visions. This principle applies equally to sustainable development, where success depends on defining its meaning and breaking it down into actionable and attainable goals. What happened with these SDGs is that they created globally agreed goals that countries, regions, and governments can work towards. SDGs also provide a framework for designing time bound targets and measurable indicators. It opened the doors for international collaborations, exchanges of resources, and capacity building. But all of this still remained legally non binding to everyone. These global sustainability goals are an outcome of years of effort. They have their own interesting journey. Hence, let's explore these genesis of SDGs. In 1962, an American biologist, or to be specific, a marine biologist, Rachel Carson, from her book Silent Spring, pointed out to the world about environmental impacts of pesticides and inspired global environmental movement. In 1969, Santa Barbara oil spill captured global attention as it released more than 15 million liters of oil in California coast, resulting in tremendous wildlife damage. This even brought media attention to environmental issues for the first time and established the green political movement. Later on, in 1972, the Club of Rome, with collaboration with Massachusetts Institute of Technology, published a report called as The Limits to Growth. This study questioned viability of continued growth and the human ecological footprint, and it predicted that the civilization would probably collapse before 2100, which shocked almost everyone in the world. In 1983, the Brundtland Commission was established by the United Nations, which in its report, Our Common Future, defined sustainable development as a development that meets the needs of the current generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This was a significant development where we defined what is sustainable development. In 2012, on the 20th anniversary of the Earth Summit, it was realized that despite of receiving continuous warnings from scientists and researchers, the concept of sustainable development has not been taken hold nor implemented. Hence, it was decided to adopt a goal-based development to help orient behavior of governments, businesses, and civil society in a shared direction. At the time of the Rio conference, the UN states were operating in the context of another set of goals known as the Millennium Development Goals or MDGs. Therefore, the idea caught on that MDGs era would be followed by a Sustainable Development Goal or SDGs era starting from 2015 to 2030. In 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals came into life. SDGs were created through a participatory process in which millions of people from different parts of the world expressed their views. The initial list of about 300 proposed goals over 3 years were negotiated, prioritized, objectives were aggregated, and by the middle of 2015, it was converted to 17 goals. Now let's align ourselves with the agenda of this course, that is land. Does land governance and SDGs have any relation, any connection? Let's find out. Land and its governance are fundamental to achieving these SDGs, ensuring inclusive, equitable, sustainable land management, which will catalyze progress in poverty reduction, food security, environmental sustainability, and urban resilience, creating a just and sustainable future for all. Land implicitly addressed by these SDGs as it ensures access to critical resources such as food and livelihood, and by promoting stable relation among land and human beings. That is a secure land tenure. It enables climate action and contains urbanization effectively and promotes sustainable utilization of natural resources, leading to achievement of sustainability. However, land governance often faces challenges in terms of inequities in land distribution, unrecognized customary rights, less coordinating among multiple stakeholders of land governance, overexploitation of land resources, affecting social, environmental, as well as economical dimensions of sustainability. Now let's explore relevance of land governance in achieving these SDGs. So sustainable development goals, they act like a roadmap for addressing environmental, societal, and economic challenges. Many studies conducted by the World Bank, the UN Habitat, and others suggest that strengthening land governance goes hand in hand with realization of sustainable development goals. The relevance of land governance is multifaceted, encompassing economic, environmental, and social dimensions critical to this sustainable development. Let's dive a little deeper into how land governance matters in achieving these SDGs. As we have established that land governance plays a critical role in achieving sustainable development goals, sustainable development targets either directly address the land as the core element, or sustainability target depends upon the outcomes of effective land governance and policies. As we learned before, land governance is a collective outcome of decisions, processes, and various institutions. For instance, let us divide land governance in broader operational components such as land rights, land management, land use planning, and land administration for our understanding. These components touch upon economic growth, societal equity, environmental sustainability, and urban development, aligning directly with multiple SDG targets. We will try to understand how these components of land governance drive the outcomes and contribute to SDGs. Fair access to land provides opportunities of economic development as well as help in enhancing agricultural productivity, which in turn directly helps alleviate poverty, ensures food security as well. This supports SDG 1, that is no poverty, and SDG 2, that is zero hunger. Socially, it empowers women and marginalized groups by giving them secure land tenure, contributing to SDG 5, that is gender equality. Land management, that is regulating how land is used, is critical for environmental sustainability. Effective land management balances the economic, environmental, and social interest of land utilization by promoting sustainable agriculture and other land use practices, maintaining ecosystems, and protecting natural habitats. This directly aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation, Sustainable Development Goal 12, which is responsible consumption and production, and SDG 13, that is climate action and SDG 15, that is life on land. Planning land use for future requirements is a key to accommodate urbanization as well. Planning land use in such a way that it supplies land and create a development potential to facilitate affordable housing, infrastructure, accessible green spaces, giving a way to sustainable urbanization. This is in line with Sustainable Development Goal 11, that is creating sustainable cities and communities. Land administration comprises processes, systems, and regulations that disseminate and maintain land related information as well. It facilitates fair transactions and secure land rights, as well as helps in conflict resolution. It can be said that land administration plays a key role in stabilizing land markets, maintaining social stability, and promoting trust by making administrative decisions transparent. Hence, land administration contributes to also Sustainable Development Goal 16, that is strengthening institutions and allowing public access to information, as well as it aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 17 by enabling partnership among public, private, and civil society. By mapping the outcomes of the effective land governance with respect to the sustainability targets, we can say that land governance significantly matters in achieving these sustainable development goals. We tried to understand how these outcomes of effective land governance help in achieving SDGs. Now let us explore the other link of SDGs and land policies. These globally set goals of sustainability act as a foundation for developing indicators to assess the overall sustainability scenario of a country. With the help of these SDGs, national or even subnational level, sectoral indicators are formulated to monitor and identify gaps, which act as baseline for formulation of guidelines and policies, including land policies as well. Hence, SDGs are a roadmap for designing policies. Particularly in India, SDGs have become a guiding principle behind policies and schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Smart City Mission, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and others. On this note, let's explore India's journey in adopting these SDGs. So, after 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments, India has adopted a decentralized government systems given its cultural diversity. India operates in three-tier federal system, meaning national and state level governments are primarily responsible for the legislations, scheme design and policy formulation, and local government, that is urban and rural, local governments implement these rules and regulations. Hence, to integrate SDGs into these systems in India, our country has undertaken chronological efforts to trickle down SDG initiatives at the grassroots level. Let's have a look at India's journey so far in adopting these SDGs. India formally adopted these Sustainable Development Goals in September 2015 when the United Nations General Assembly approved them for 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. India committed to achieving these global goals within the national context. In 2016, the Indian government aligned SDGs with national priorities through Niti Aayog, which serves as the main body for overseeing implementation of SDGs. India created a national framework to monitor progress on each goal with specific targets for each sector. In 2017, India presented its first voluntary national review, that is VNR report, to the UN High-Level Political Forum, showcasing the steps it had taken to adopt and implement SDGs. In 2018, SDG India Index was launched, which was developed in consultation with states, union territories, union ministries, and United Nations agencies for the purpose of comparing and analyzing progress of SDGs in India. In 2019, Niti Aayog prepared a review of progress and early lessons on localizing SDGs in India, and afterward efforts were made to integrate SDGs in district level governance as well. Later on, in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic significantly impacted the progress, but India worked towards realigning its recovery efforts to be more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive. Focus areas like health, social security, and clean energy have been prioritized to meet the SDG targets. Further, we will come to the India's institutional framework for adopting SDGs and try to understand role of different institutes at each level. At a national level, as we have seen already, Niti Aayog is a national implementation agency for achieving these SDGs. Niti Aayog coordinates among union ministries and states and union territories and maps policies as well as it plays role of monitoring the outcomes, provides knowledge repositories and training facilities too. The next one is Comptroller and Auditor General. Comptroller and Auditor General prepares performance audits of SDG implementation, which acts as basis to provide an oversight by the Parliament. Then comes the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. It ensures that local level plans align with SDGs by preparing and updating the guidelines. Union ministers formulate schemes and programs. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation developed by National Indicator Framework, that is NIF, which includes 306 indicators aligned with global SDG targets. The framework is updated periodically based on stakeholder inputs and the availability of new data. It is also responsible for publishing annual SDG progress reports, which include time series data, metadata, and analysis for each of these development goal indicator. As well, it maintains dashboard and open data portals. Now let's look at the state level. So state level committee, which is chaired by the chief secretary in coordination with Niti Aayog, provides state level guidelines and policies, and time to time it also reviews them and monitors the progress. Respective state legislature provides an oversight to the state's progress in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Director of Economics and Statistics collects timely and reliable data, tracks state-specific progress on SDG indicators by preparing periodic reports. The next agency is State Planning Department. It's a nodal agency which coordinates state-level committee, state departments, districts, for effective implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. State departments ensure implementation of sectoral policies as well. Now let's come to local level. At local level, District Planning Committee acts as the nodal agency to coordinate among State Planning Department and urban and rural local bodies to deploy policies, and urban and rural local government implement these initiatives at grassroots level. Hence, India's institutional framework is multi-level, for which horizontal and vertical coordination among various institutions is very, very critical. We will now try to understand the coordinated efforts of union government and state government and role of states in achieving SDGs by converging national level policy with state level policies by knowing more about a specific example, that is Kerala's Life Mission, a state level scheme that integrated Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the urban housing program which was launched by the Government of India to provide housing, particularly in urban areas. Life Mission of Kerala was launched to provide housing for homeless and landless households. Life Mission also includes livelihood support, social services, skill development, and financial services. PMAY, that is the urban scheme which was converged with Life Mission to give assistance to those who own the land but lack resources to build their own house. This program integrated funds from PMAY urban scheme of Government of India as well as the housing scheme under SCST and Fisheries Department. What happened with this is that it helped in enhancing the assistance for unit cost of construction from 1 lakh under beneficiary construction vertical to 4 lakhs. The convergence of PMAY urban with Kudumba Shri, a poverty eradication and women empowerment program implemented by the Government of Kerala, and National Urban Livelihood Mission, it made a significant impact on construction workers and the end beneficiaries. Despite its success, Life Mission has faced several challenges in land acquisition, coordination among various institutions, and in maintaining the quality of construction. Kerala's vulnerability to natural disasters has also posed challenges in its implementation. So, in this chapter or in this lecture, what we have learned is that what are the SDGs, the basic concepts to understand what are sustainable development goals. We also identified the link between land and land governance and sustainable development goals. We also tried to understand the multi level framework and the role of various national and subnational institutions in adopting sustainable development goals in the Indian context. What we can take away from this lecture is that land governance, not only in India but globally, is critical for sustainable development. To connect SDGs with land governance effectively, it's a complex process as multiple institutions are involved in such processes. Readiness, legacy issues, technology adoption, natural geographic conditions, and many other factors may pose challenges for effective sustainable development goal implementation. Land governance, that is equity, sustainability, and economic growth, if it does not address that, then the whole purpose of this would be defeated. That's all from this lecture. Thank you.